Tomorrow sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? 70 in Rome now, 73 in Noonan, 72 in Mapleton, and 74 in Atlanta. From News Radio 106.7, it's Steve McCoy, Cheryl White, and Charles Edward Maurice Spencer. 9th Earl Spencer is a British peer, author, print journalist, and broadcaster. Lord Spencer is the brother of the late Diana, Princess of Wales, the maternal uncle of Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and Prince Harry, and the great-uncle of Prince George of Cambridge. And he's on the show right now in the studio with us. His latest book is his 6th, Killer of the King, The Men Who Dared to Execute Charles I. Did I get that all correct?
You did. I was amazed.
Good, good. I'm glad. What kind of broadcasting did you do?
Well, I worked for the Today Show on NBC as a correspondent from the mid-80s to mid-90s.
Yeah.
And that was the main one. And I also worked for a couple of stations in Britain. But the Today Show was the best
I thought
one.
maybe you called some cricket action somewhere along the way, perhaps.
I did do tennis for NBC a bit.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Killer of the King, The Men Who Dared to Execute Charles I is a book that you've got out right now. And you got some big news about it, I understand.
Well, yeah, very luckily for me, about 10 days ago I signed for a Hollywood movie with it, so that was very
wow.
So that is big news.
Well, it is quite unusual because it is history rather than historical fiction or whatever. But when I stumbled across this story on a very obscure website called executedtoday.com, and I don't even know how I found that site, but it told me about this guy being killed for being one of the killers of the king. We had this king in the 17th century in England, Charles I, and he lost his civil war we had then and ended up being executed. And really this is the story of what happened to those men who were responsible for killing him when his son very unexpectedly came back to power. So it's a chase around the world, including in America where these people were hiding.
Any idea who you'd like to be in the movie if you had your choice?
I right from the beginning I thought Colin Firth would be the best
I love him.
figure. I know, and actually very bizarre, but I was in the first movie he was ever in 1986. I was a featured extra in that. So I've known him forever. In fact, I bumped into him when he was promoting the King's speech, and he reminded me we had a shower scene together, which is slightly embarrassing.
Okay, note to look that up.
Yeah, what's the name of that movie? Cheryl would like to know. If you have any copies of it, just give her one. Yeah. Killer of the King, The Men Who Dared to Execute Charles I is the book that Charles has out, and will you have much say-so in who's cast and that sort of things? I know sometimes they kind of sideline authors.
Well, I was happy to be sidelined because I was so flattered they wanted to make a movie from it. And I said this, and the man said, no, I really want you involved. And I said, well, you don't have to say that. He said, no, it'll save me money because otherwise I'll have to get someone else to do it.
Will it be made here in America?
Yes, it is, yeah, in Hollywood. Yeah.
Who's the director, do you know yet?
Well, they're sorting all that out. The producer's somebody who's done a lot of very major movies recently. And by sheer chance, he's a history major, and he just said, let's go for it.
Okay, very good.
Can we talk decorating
Why
for
not?
just a minute? Because I understand you are the co-founder of a furniture line.
Well, there is a company, yes, and so what it's called is Althorpe Living History, and it's named after my family's home. We've lived there for just over 500 years in England, and yes, I'm here in Atlanta primarily for that. Tonight at Matthews Furniture, I'm at a reception for it, and all the profits that come from this furniture line that go to me get ploughed back into this 500-year-old house.
Charles, you don't look a day over $3.99 to me. My goodness.
It's early in the morning.
Yes, it is. But I wanted to ask you about that. So the house is kind of like a Downton Abbey, isn't it?
It is. Well, Julian Fellows, who writes Downton Abbey, is a friend of mine, and I took great pleasure. Somebody did a profile on the house about a year ago, and in the LA Times they said it made Downton Abbey look Downton shabby. So I sent him that, and he's been firing things back at me in the meantime. But no, it's great. I'm very lucky, you know. This is the ultimate privilege, especially as somebody who loves history. I live in something that is living history, and my children are the 19th generation of my family to live there. You look around and there's all these portraits of long gone ancestors, but it's still very much a family home.
It's a big estate too.
Yes, well, for England, I don't know. I mean, probably not by American standards. Yes, there's a large agricultural holding around it, and then that all supports the house as well.
So I'm guessing for people who love shows like Downton Abbey, being able to purchase furnishings that resemble that time period must be pretty exciting.
Well, I hope so. You know, it all came about by chance. Somebody approached me from this company, Theodore Alexander, and they just said, look, we'd like to come and have a look round. And he turned out to be this wonderfully eccentric, older English guy. And he said, can I have a look round for inspiration? And I said, sure. And he reappeared 3 days later with 10,000 images of things he wanted to work with. And I thought, well, let's see how it goes. And I never had any great thoughts it would go anywhere, but I think we're a decade down the line. It's helped pay for a new roof for the house, and you know, I've done up the outside of the house for the first time since the 1770s. A difficult period for an Englishman to talk about.
Could you imagine how much the roof must have cost?
Yeah.
Well, it's all lead, you see.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all lead. It's a huge area as well. But no, it's all been great. It's been a very happy experience. You know, when you put your family's name on the line in this way, it is a bit of a gamble, but it's turned out pretty good, thank you.
I'm looking at the cover of the book here, the picture of the king, I take it.
Yes.
And it reminds me of a little bit. Do you watch Game of Thrones at all?
I do,
Okay.
yes.
The brutality of Game of Thrones, is that throughout this book? at all?
Unbelievable. I mean, this book, well, what happened in this period teaches the Game of Thrones new tricks. It's
Oh,
so
really?
unpleasant. I mean, if you went up against the king and lost, it really was, you might as well have killed yourself to spare yourself the agony that was coming your way. It was a terrible, you look at what happens in the name of religion and politics today, and you realize nothing's much changed, you know?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. You wear so many different hats: the journalist, the broadcaster, author, British royalty, brother, uncle, father, husband. Which one do you consider the most important, requiring the most effort?
Definitely father.
Yeah.
I've got the unusual number of 7 children.
Oh, do you really?
Yes,
Wow.
and 2 stepchildren. And I'm very lucky they all get on so well. We twice a year we make sure we carve out time for all the kids to be with us.
Where do you like to vacation?
France. We've
Oh,
just
really?
been in France last month.
How often do you come over here?
A lot. I spend about a third of the year in California.
Oh, really?
My wife is a Canadian Californian, and we have a place just outside LA. And but I've always loved it. You know, you mentioned that my broadcasting career. I got to know America through that, really. And also, I had an American grandfather on the East Coast as well. So I've always been, despite the incredibly English accent, I've always been very at home in America.
Yeah, can you do an American accent?
I probably could, but not on live radio.
Because we have so many British actors that are here, the Walking Dead stars.
It's
and all that.
unbelievable how
It
many
really
of these
is.
people, and so many of them went to the same school I went to, Eton.
Yeah.
You know, you look at these people, and they all sound like me. And then you see them in whatever it is, Homeland or whatever, and you wouldn't know at all.
Yeah, it's very
The
peculiar.
Wire.
Yeah.
You know, these people they're English.
Mm-hmm. Well, the same is true. I do voice work on the side, and I did a app for Policeman Pete in England called 999.
Fantastic.
And I thought there had to be some other actors that could do a British voice, but I got the audition. I don't know how.
Well, it's in the tone, I think.
Maybe you did that, Policeman Pete. But anyway, very fun to talk to you, and very glad to have you. And he's going to sign a book for us to give to you guys on the air. So we're going to give one of these away, right? We have
Yes.
one to give away. Very good. Killer of the King, the men who dared to execute Charles the
Looking
First.
forward to reading that.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Charles, very much for dropping
Thank
by.
you.
Great pleasure, thank
We
you.
appreciate it so much. 8:16, we check your traffic on the 6s from the Haviland Express Loop Traffic Center. It's Matt Dorr.